My child is in the back seat.
Gun? Stay here. This won't take long.
The man walked straight toward the van. The robber was cursing and threatening the child in the back seat. The boy was successfully rescued and hugged his mother tightly. After doing a good deed, the man walked away gracefully.
Wait! Who are you?
Someone who prefers not getting involved.
Reacher continued to withdraw money, but when he saw the receipt, he became tense. On it was a distress signal sent by a woman.
I need you to come to New York ASAP.
Why?
Calvin Franz was murdered.
Franz was Reacher's comrade during his time as a Special Forces soldier. They had been through life and death situations together and shared a bond forged in combat. Reacher immediately flew to the restaurant to meet with the woman. Neagily told him Franz had been thrown from a helicopter and had suffered inhuman torture before his death. The killer was clearly trying to extract some information from him, but failed. They set off for Franz's office to look for clues, unaware that someone was already watching them from outside the restaurant.
She just met up with the big one.
When they arrived at Franz's office, they found it completely ransacked. Neagily picked up a photo from the floor. It was of 91st, their Special Forces unit. That day, they met for the first time. Captain Reacher treated them to drinks. As they made awkward small talk, a black man approached them.
You're not supposed to be drinking in uniform. She doesn't belong here.
Neagily initially intended to endure it and let it go since they're on the black man's turf.
How about I just finish my beer and I'll be on my way, okay, sir?
How about you be quiet? You're adults talking. Now, it's either she leaves or we drag you all out by you.
Jack immediately lost his temper after hearing this. The black man was promptly thrown out the window. The club erupted into chaos, turning into an all-out brawl. The 9 of them completely overpowered the 12 burly men on the other side. That fight forged a strong bond of brotherhood among the 9 of them. Now, with Franz brutally killed, there was no way they would stand idly by. Neagily deduced from the broken chair leg that whatever the killer was looking for had to be very small, likely something hidden inside the hollow leg. She glanced across at the post office and suddenly had an idea.
Franz was sharp, right?
Very sharp.
So if he was dealing with something that could get him killed, you'd have to put it in a place that was very secure but readily available.
Okay.
So what's a place that's readily available that we entrust every day with very important items?
There was actually a USB drive and a pile of bills in the mailbox. The 2 of them rushed back to the hotel to analyze it at once, but as they got close to the door, Neagli's guard was up. Reacher stepped in first, and the room was a mess. Everything had been ransacked. Suddenly, Neagily heard a noise inside. The 2 of them cautiously pressed against the wall. Neagily quickly yanked open the roll-up door. Reacher swiftly grabbed the intruder and slammed him against the wall.
So you're still using brass knuckles? No more switchblade?
Put it down.
It turned out that the intruder was their comrade. After receiving a distress call from Reacher, he had tracked them down to this location. After some brief pleasantries, Neagily inserted the USB drive into the computer. A death list was printed out, and all the names began with the letters AM. Reacher thinks these were all aliases. He deduced the company behind this was no small player, as businesses using AM as an alias in the federal records often had ties to arms trafficking. Donnell agreed the mastermind behind this was likely very powerful and suggested reaching out to their team member, Anna, for help. The 3 of them took a 200-mile train ride to Anna's home. 7 days later, the 4 of them were at Anna's mansion, enjoying beers and chatting about life. When Reacher reunited with an old acquaintance, his gaze was different.
Don't you ever get lonely?
It turned out that when Reacher was a team leader of the unit, Anna had confessed her feelings for him. Back then, Reacher was too young and unaware of her affection. So, the 2 of them reignited their old flame and relished the taste of romance once more. However, while they were on their date, they realized they were being secretly followed. As the clues practically presented themselves, the 2 rushed toward the factory wall. They quickly scaled the 10-meter-high wall, and the man following them hurriedly chased into the factory. Peeking over the wall, Reacher, coming from the side, rushed toward him swiftly. After dealing with the man who was following them, Reacher invited Anna to share a drink. Reacher cleaned the wound on his 8-pack abs while looking into the mirror. Anna then noticed she had also been injured on her chest. Without hesitation, Reacher immediately began tending to her wounds.
What you doing?
What my mom used to do in the alcohol stuff.
The two of them spent a wonderful night together. The next day, the four of them went to a cafe to continue their investigation, discovering that the man following them was a security guard from a company. The group quickly drove to the company, but as soon as they got out of the car, they were surrounded by a gang of motorcycle riders.
Hand over your guns.
What makes you think we have guns?
We were told you'd be packing, Reacher.
As he watched his teammate's gun being confiscated and taken away, Reacher remained completely unfazed.
Tell you you'd die tonight?
I'll die. That's funny.
No guns, so no noise.
I'm gonna cut you. Gotcha. Leave you.
At that moment, the phone rang. It was a call from the mastermind behind it all.
Yeah. Before you ask if it's done, it is. Just not in the way you hoped for.
You're causing a very complex operation a lot of problems.
The mastermind thought he could solve the problem with money. But little did he know, Reacher had no interest in money at all. He only wanted to avenge his comrades.
I want to throw you out of a helicopter.
3 days later, Reacher and Needley tracked down a key figure from the list, Grant. Many of Langston's arms deals had been arranged through him. Recently, Grant had been hospitalized in the ICU due to a car accident. Reacher and Needley, disguised, arrived at the hospital. They found Grant lying in bed. Reacher quickly grabbed his throat, warning him not to make a sound if he wanted to stay alive.
When and where is Langston meeting his buyer?
I don't know.
Seeing Grant was still being stubborn, Reacher glanced down and noticed the urine bag next to the bed. He lifted the blanket and came up with a brilliant idea for a cruel form of interrogation.
Hey, what?
There's a balloon inflated in your bladder holding it in place. If I fill the balloon port with air, it'll burst the balloon and tear your urethra apart like a piñata.
With that, Reacher grabbed the syringe and began injecting air into it. After getting the information he wanted, Reacher pulled the syringe out. Grant thought he had narrowly escaped, but the next second, Reacher quickly inserted the syringe into the catheter and, without hesitation, pushed all the air into it, causing Grant's face to puff up as the air filled his body. Reacher and Needley, now armed with the information, rushed to meet up with their teammates, only to run straight into a killer sent by Langston. The killer pushed past a nurse and tried to escape. Reacher and Needley chased him without hesitation. After rounding a corner, they lost sight of him. When Reacher noticed the nearby equipment room, he immediately realized the assassin was hiding inside. The two decided to split up. Needley opened the door and walked in, grabbing a cane from the doorway, ready to fight. Just as she opened the door, as the killer attempted to use a chainsaw to finish Needley, he suddenly turned around. Reacher had cut the power. In the end, Reacher reluctantly killed the killer, missing the opportunity to interrogate him for Langston's whereabouts. However, Needley bent down and pulled a phone from the killer's pocket.
Maybe we can still get some answers.
Here's some good news.
Sure. You're down another man, but I left his body in the morgue for convenience.
Before Reacher could say anything threatening, Langston informed him that he had captured Anna and Donnell. If he wanted to save them, he would have to come and face death. Reacher lied, telling him that Needley had been killed by the killer at the hospital, so he was coming alone. Reacher arrived at the designated meeting spot alone, while Needley hid in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to rescue them. Langston looked at Reacher with a sense of satisfaction, ready to teach him a lesson, but just as he was about to act, his phone rang.
Get him ready.
After saying that, Langston left first. At that moment, one of his underlings stepped forward.
You aren't in charge.
Seeing his underling knocked to the ground, Langston immediately drew his gun and aimed it at Reacher. He had just learned from the phone call that Neagley was not dead. To keep the secret covered, the three of them couldn't be killed immediately. Langston turned and shot Donnell. For the sake of his comrades, Reacher had no choice but to obey. After teaching Reacher a lesson, Langston ordered his men to put Anna and Donnell on the helicopter, intending to throw them into the sea where they would be left with no remains. Once Langston left, Reacher began his escape. He pulled a sewing needle from the sole of his shoe and, after a bit of work, managed to unlock his handcuffs. Meanwhile, Neagley and the other teammates launched their own rescue mission. Big Beard cut the power, plunging the factory into darkness. The front gate was blown open by them. With his restraints freed, Reacher took advantage of the chaos, ducking behind a wall. On the other side, Langston realized something was wrong and prepared to escape by helicopter. Just as the helicopter was about to lift off, Reacher rushed out and leaped onto it. Langston ordered his men to throw Anna off the helicopter, but just as they did, a large hand grabbed the platform. Reacher successfully boarded the helicopter. One of Langston's bodyguards pulled out a gun, but Reacher shot it out of his hand. Langston aimed his weapon at Reacher, but a struggling Donnell interfered, causing Langston's shot to miss. Reacher threw off the bodyguard, stormed forward, and began fighting Langston. The helicopter shook violently. Anna was about to fall off. Fortunately, Reacher grabbed her just in time. Struggling to his feet, Langston came up next to Reacher.
You just don't know when to quit!
In the crucial moment, Anna broke free from her restraints, pulled out a knife, and stabbed it into the man. Reacher landed a punch that knocked Langston to the ground, then dragged him all the way to the helicopter door and threw him out.